It is the ultimate nightmare scenario. You are in a crowded room, music is blaring, and everyone is celebrating the new year. You look up and see a waitress sitting on a colleague's shoulders. It looks like a party trick. She's holding a champagne bottle with a sparkler in it. It's festive, it's exciting. And then, in a split second, that sparkler touches the ceiling.
And that is it? That is the moment everything changes?
That is the moment. The ceiling, which is covered in dried vegetation and foam for soundproofing, just ignites. It doesn't just catch fire, Peter. It explodes. We're talking about 47 people dead, 115 were injured, and it all started with a single sparkler in a champagne bottle.
That is absolutely terrifying. Just 1 second between a party and a catastrophe. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily News English podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Anna.
We have a really heavy episode for you today. This is one of those stories that stops you in your tracks. We are looking at a tragedy that took place in Switzerland in a ski resort town called Crans, Montana.
That's right. It's a story about a New Year's Eve celebration that went horribly wrong. It's being called one of the worst tragedies in modern Switzerland. We're going to break down exactly what happened, the science behind the fire, the victims, and the aftermath.
It's going to be intense, but I think there's a lot to learn here, not just about the English language, but about safety and how fragile these situations can be. So let's get into the location first, Crans, Montana. This isn't just some random dive bar, right? This is a high-end place.
Exactly. Crans Montana is a very upscale ski resort in the Swiss Alps, in the canton of Valais. It's famous for World Cup skiing and for its golf courses in the summer. It attracts a wealthy, international crowd. The specific venue was a nightclub called Les Constellations.
Les Constellations, and from the pictures I've seen, this place looks like a classic alpine bar, lots of wood.
Yes, and that's a critical detail. It's a basement bar. To get in or out, you have to use a staircase. And the interior, it was heavily decorated with wood, which fits that cozy mountain aesthetic. But the ceiling was also lined with soundproofing foam.
Oh no, I feel like we've heard this story before. Soundproofing foam is basically solid gasoline if it's not treated properly.
It's incredibly dangerous. And here's the setup for that night. It was New Year's Eve, the club was packed, there were around 200 people inside, and uncomfortably, the age limit for this club was 16.
16? That seems young for a nightclub.
It is unusual, but in this resort, it was one of the few places that allowed people under 18. So the crowd was very young, teenagers, people in their early 20s. They were there to ring in 2026.
So you have a basement full of teenagers, it's midnight or just after. What happens?
According to witnesses and footage that's been recovered, the atmosphere was chaotic and happy. People were dancing, and then, as part of the celebration, the staff brought out champagne bottles. But not just bottles. These had sparklers attached to them.
Which is pretty standard in clubs, right? You order bottle service, you get the sparklers.
It is standard, but what happened next was the fatal mistake. One of the waitresses climbed onto the shoulders of a male colleague. She's holding this bottle high up in the air, waving it around.
And I assume the ceilings in a basement bar aren't exactly cathedral height.
No, they're low. The footage shows the sparkler hitting the ceiling material, and almost instantly the ceiling catches fire.
There's actually a video of this?
There is. French outlet BFM-TV received footage from survivors. You can see the moment the flame touches the ceiling. And there's this heartbreaking detail, Peter. There's footage showing a young man, a hero as the reports call him, trying to jump up and put out the flames with his hands.
He tried to fight it?
He tried. He saw it starting to spread across the wood and the foam. He was jumping up, trying to smother it, but the fire was moving too fast.
It must have been moving at incredible speed for him to fail like that. I mean, if you catch a fire in the first 5 seconds, usually you have a chance.
Usually, but this brings us to a specific term the officials are using. The French term is embrasement généralisé.
That sounds intense. What does it translate to?
In English firefighting terms, we call it a flashover.
A A flashover. Break that down for us. What is happening physically during a flashover?
A flashover is a terrifying phenomenon. It's not just the fire spreading from object A to object B. What happens is that the fire gets so hot, so quickly, that it releases combustible gases from everything in the room: the furniture, the paint, the floor. These gases rise to the ceiling, they get superheated, and then suddenly everything in the room ignites at once.
So it's like an explosion without a bomb.
Exactly. It's an explosive ignition of the air itself. The witnesses described it as an explosion. The residents living nearby actually thought it was a terror attack because the sound was so deafening. The windows were blown out.
That explains why the death toll is so high. If the air itself catches fire, you can't outrun that.
You really can't. And remember, they're in a basement. The fire engulfed the ceiling and then it traveled up the narrow wooden stairs.
The stairs were on fire? That was the exit?
That was the main exit. One witness, a woman who spoke to BFM-TV, said the staircase was extremely narrow. She said there was a huge surge in the crowd, a stampede.
I can't even imagine the panic. You're in the dark, there's smoke, the ceiling is on fire, and the only way out is a narrow wooden staircase that's also burning.
It's the stuff of nightmares. Another survivor, Victoria, said it was like a horror movie. She saw people smashing the glass, screaming, running, and outside, parents were racing up in their cars because they knew their kids were inside.
That's the part that really hits me. The parents. You drop your 16 or 17-year-old kid off for a New Year's party. You think they're safe in a Swiss resort, and then you get a call, or maybe you don't get a call.
That silence is the worst part. There's a father, Mr. Gallipini. His son, Emanuele Gallipini, was 17. He was a talented golfer, an Italian golf prodigy, actually.
I read about him. He had been pictured with Rory McIlroy. He had a huge future ahead of him.
He did. His father had called him at midnight to wish him a happy birthday and happy new year. Emmanuel was born on January 1st, so he turned 17 the very moment the year changed.
Oh, that is tragic. That is just heartbreaking.
It is. About an hour and a half later, the father hears about the explosion. He rushes to the club. He is standing outside the cordon calling his son's phone. No answer.
And Emmanuel was the first victim named?
Yes, he was the first confirmed fatality. The Italian Golf Federation posted a tribute, calling him a young athlete who embodied passion. But think about the other families. The authorities said it could take days to identify everyone.
Why days? I mean, usually identification happens faster than that.
This is the grim reality of a flashover fire. The burns were severe. One witness, Gianni, told a Swiss outlet that the victims' faces were disfigured. Their clothes were fused to their skin. The heat was so intense that visual identification was impossible for many of them. They have to use dental records and DNA samples.
That is just gruesome. It really paints a picture of how violent this fire was. You mentioned earlier that some people were repatriated?
Yes. Many of the victims were tourists, particularly from Italy. The Italian foreign minister is getting involved. They have been flying injured survivors back to Milan for treatment because the local Swiss hospitals were overwhelmed.
I saw a quote from a doctor at the Geneva University Hospital. He said the victims have third-degree burns and internal burns from breathing the smoke.
Dr. Robert Laribal, yes, he emphasized that the patients are very young, between 15 and 25. When you inhale superheated gas, it burns your lungs from the inside. That is often what kills people in these fires, even if they manage to get out.
It is just a cascade of failures. You have the sparklers, the foam, the wood, and the narrow exit. What about the owners? Who runs this place?
The owners are a couple, Jacques and Jessica Moretti. They're from Corsica. They opened La Constellation in 2015. They're facing a lot of questions right now.
I bet they are. I mean, how do you have a club with only one narrow exit for 200 people?
That's going to be the center of the investigation. The prosecutor has opened an investigation to understand the circumstances. They haven't charged anyone yet, but they are looking at the maximum capacity and the safety measures.
It reminds me of the Station Nightclub fire in Rhode Island years ago. Same thing. Pyrotechnics indoors, soundproofing foam, mass casualties. We never seem to learn these lessons.
It does seem that way. And the layout of this place, witnesses said everyone was pushing and shoving in that stairwell. One young man, Tim Steffens, who was a ski instructor, described the seeing people coming out with their clothes burned away. He said the screams were something he would never forget.
And yet, amidst all this horror, there are stories of survival.
There are. There's a 16-year-old from Paris, Axel Clavier. He managed to force a window open with a table. He got out, but he lost friends. He said he felt like he was suffocating.
And there's that one story about the boy with the crucifix.
Yes, this is a very strange and touching detail. A witness saw a young man trapped inside. He realized he couldn't get out, so he just sat down and held a crucifix in his hand.
Wow, just accepted it?
It seems so. The chaos was so overwhelming that some people just froze or accepted their fate. It's heartbreaking to imagine a teenager in that position.
It really is. You know, we talk about the panic, but there's also the aftermath for the whole town. Crans, Montana is a close-knit resort community.
Absolutely. The mayor, Nicholas Ferreau, was in tears at the press conference. He said it's the worst tragedy the country has experienced in recent times. The whole town is in shock. They've set up a makeshift altar near the club. People are leaving flowers, candles. And the flag is at half-mast? For 5 days, the whole of Switzerland is mourning. You have to remember, these victims weren't just locals. They were from Italy, France, and possibly Australia. It's an international tragedy.
There's a quote from a girl, Elisa Souza. Did you see that?
Yes, that one gave me chills. She's 17. She was supposed to be at the club that night, but she ended up staying at a family gathering instead.
Luck. Just pure luck.
She said she needs to thank her mother 100 times for not letting her go. She said, God knows where I'd be now. It's that survivor's guilt, knowing your friends are gone just because of a small decision you made.
It's terrifying how arbitrary it is. One decision, one sparkler, one blocked exit.
And now the families are in that agonizing waiting period. There's a mother, Letitia, looking for her 16-year-old son, Arthur. She told reporters she's been searching for 30 hours. She doesn't know which hospital, which morgue, or even which country he's in.
Because they're flying people to different cities?
Exactly. Some are in Zurich, some are in Lausanne, and some are in Italy. The confusion is total. You can imagine the desperation of a parent driving from hospital to hospital, showing a picture of their child on their phone, asking, "Have you seen him?"
And the victims are badly burned that the doctors might not even recognize the face in the photo.
Precisely. That's why they need the DNA. It's a slow, painful process.
You know, reading about the cause again, a sparkler and a champagne bottle, it's such a symbol of celebration. It's supposed to be the peak of the party.
It is ironic, isn't it? The symbol of joy became the ignition source, and the fact that the waitress was on someone's shoulders highlights how low the ceiling was. If she had been on the floor, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Or if the ceiling wasn't covered in flammable foam.
Right. It's a combination of factors. The Swiss president, Guy Parmelin, called it indescribable violence, and I think that's the right word. Fire is violent.
It is. It's a beast. And when you confine it in a basement, it creates that pressure cooker effect. The explosions witnesses heard, that was likely the gas igniting or windows blowing out from pressure.
The technical term flashover really explains the speed. I think people assume they have minutes to escape a fire. In a flashover scenario, you have seconds. If you aren't near the door when it starts, you're in trouble.
And with the crowd, 200 people. Even if the door was wide open, getting 200 people out of a basement takes time.
Especially when panic sets in. A stampede can be just as deadly as the fire. People get crushed. We saw that in other tragedies. Here, it seems the fire was the main killer, but the stampede in the stairwell definitely hampered the escape.
It is just a complete catastrophe. I keep thinking about the parents outside, seeing the smoke coming out of the ground, essentially.
And the windows. One witness said the windows were black. You couldn't see in. That image is haunting. You know people are in there, but it is just a black wall of smoke.
It makes you want to check the exits every time you walk into a club now.
Honestly, you should. It is a grim lesson, but situational awareness is key. Look for the exit that isn't the one you came in.
Absolutely. If there's one thing to take away from this, besides the tragedy of it, it is to be aware of your surroundings.
And maybe question the wisdom of indoor pyrotechnics in small spaces.
Seriously, sparklers, fireworks, keep them outside. It is not worth the risk.
Well, as the investigation continues, we will likely learn more about the specific materials used in that ceiling, but for now, the focus is on the families and the identification of the victims.
47 lives, and so many of them are just kids. It's a heavy day for news.
It certainly is.
All right, let's take a deep breath and switch gears slightly. We've used some very specific and honestly quite intense words today to describe this event. We need to break them down so you guys can understand the news coverage better.
Right. The first word we need to look at is inferno.
Inferno. You see this in headlines all the time.
Yes, an inferno is a large fire that is dangerously out of control. It comes from the Italian word for hell. So when we say the club turned into an inferno, we mean it wasn't just a small fire. It was a hellish, uncontrollable blaze.
It implies heat and destruction on a massive scale. Next word.
Engulf. We said the flames would soon engulf the crowded basement.
To engulf means to sweep over something so as to surround it or cover it completely.
Exactly. Imagine a wave crashing over a rock. The water engulfs the rock. In this case, the fire moved so fast that it surrounded the people in the room. It engulfed the club.
Okay, next one. We talked about this technical term, flashover.
Flashover. This is a noun. It refers to the near simultaneous ignition of most of the directly exposed combustible material in an enclosed area.
In simple English?
It is when everything in the room catches fire at the same second because it is so hot. It is the moment a fire goes from burning in a corner to burning everywhere.
Got it. Scariest word of the day. What about stampede?
Stampede. This happens when a large group of people or animals suddenly runs in a panicked, uncontrolled way.
We usually hear it with animals, like cattle.
Right, but in the news, a stampede refers to a crowd of people running for an exit. In this story, the survivors described a stampede on the narrow staircase. Everyone is pushing and running to get out.
Next up is harrowing.
Harrowing. This is an adjective. It means acutely distressing or painful.
You used this to describe the scenes inside the club.
Yes, survivors described harrowing scenes. It means the scenes were traumatic, disturbing, and very difficult to witness.
And one more, a bit more bureaucratic, repatriated.
Repatriated. This means to send someone back to their own country.
So the Italian victims were repatriated.
Correct. Because they were hurt in Switzerland, the government arranged for them to be repatriated, sent back to Italy for medical treatment or for burial.
And finally, let's just touch on combustible.
Combustible simply means able to catch fire and burn easily. The soundproofing foam was highly combustible. Wood is combustible.
Basically, anything that burns is combustible.
Exactly.
Well, that brings us to the end of a very difficult episode. It's hard to process a tragedy of this magnitude, especially when it involves so many young people just trying to celebrate.
It really is. Our thoughts are definitely with the families in Italy, Switzerland, and everywhere else affected by this. It's a stark reminder of how quickly things can turn.
We hope that by going through this, not only did you learn some English, but maybe you gained a bit of perspective on what happened that night.
We'll keep following this story as the investigation unfolds.
If this episode helped you understand English a little better today, please hit the like button. Every click tells YouTube that learning English through real news truly matters.
We're dedicated to making English simple, clear, and practical, using real news to help learners grow step by step.
If you want to improve your listening skills every day, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode.
Where are you listening from? Leave a comment with your country or city and tell us how long you've been learning English. We love hearing your story.
Thank you for learning with us today and for turning daily news into real English progress. Keep listening, keep growing. You've got this.